The morning commute train. As always, I was heading to the station along my usual route. Through the ticket gates, down the stairs, to the same spot on the same platform. The sunlit tracks were dazzling. Commuters checking their smartphones, businessmen reading newspapers, students in their uniforms. The same scene repeats itself every day. For 10 years, I've waited for the train at this time, in this place. Standing on the platform, I often wonder, what if I had made a different choice that day? What if we hadn't gone to the amusement park? What if we had chosen a different spot for the parade? But what ifs can't change reality. While the clock keeps ticking, time seems frozen for me, stuck on that day. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm 38 and currently work as a librarian. I used to be an elementary school teacher. I loved spending time with children in the classroom. Reading time was my particular joy. My heart would warm seeing the children's eyes light up as they listened to stories. It was the same at home. Emily, my daughter, would spread a book on my lap, and together we'd immerse ourselves in the world of stories. She loved books and often begged to go to the library. "Mom, what book are we reading today?" "Today, let's read The Goodnight Kiss." I love that book. The bunny. Her voice still echoes in my ears. Her favorite books still line the bookshelf. Sometimes I pick them up, remembering the warmth of those days. The small fingerprints on the spines. Dog-eared pages. They're all my treasures. My husband David was a dedicated corporate warrior. He'd leave early and return late. Though time with family was limited, we had our own kind of happiness. Our weekends together were precious treasures. Despite his exhaustion, David always kept his promises to Emily. Sunday breakfast was always the three of us together. That was our small happiness. Emily was a lively girl. Cheerful and popular in class. But when reading, she'd become remarkably quiet. People often said she took after me. Pink backpack, favorite bunny hairpin, light blue dress. Such small memories now constrict my chest. Her room remains exactly as it was that day. Homework printouts on the desk. The teddy bear she always slept with on the bed. A space where time stands still. That day, unusually, David suggested going to the amusement park. It was for Emily's 8th birthday. It was a Sunday with beautiful weather. Emily woke up earlier than usual, excited from the morning. "Mom, I want to ride the merry-go-round. And the Ferris wheel. I want to see the parade too." Emily's eyes sparkled. She was excited all morning, checking our plans repeatedly. As soon as we arrived at the park, she headed straight for the merry-go-round. My daughter waving happily from atop a white horse. The photo we took of our family of 3 in front of that merry-go-round would be our last. Even now, when I look at that photo, my chest tightens. Sometimes her smile is too bright to look at. The amusement park was crowded with families that weekend. Children with balloons, families eating ice cream, couples taking commemorative photos. Smiles everywhere. During lunch, David was absorbed in his smartphone as usual. Probably concerned about work emails. I felt slightly irritated at my husband. This was supposed to be family time. Looking back, I wish I had spoken up more strongly. Told him to put away the phone, to cherish this time with family. Just before the afternoon parade began, the crowd suddenly grew. Performers in colorful costumes passed by. Music played, cheers erupted. I was sure I was holding Emily's hand. I was certain I had been holding it, but suddenly, the warmth of that small hand vanished. Emily. No response. Emily. Where are you? My voice was shaking. Desperately searching through the waves of people. Where are you? Looking around in panic. Unknown faces, nothing but unknown faces. A sickening anxiety washed over me. Excuse me, I'm looking for an 8-year-old girl. She's wearing a light blue dress and a bunny hairpin. People I asked only gave sympathetic looks. No one had any solid information. Park announcements began. Security guards rushed over. I ran through the park. Bathrooms, shops, rest areas. Searched every possible place. Ran until my legs felt like lead. Time ticked by relentlessly. As dusk approached, the police arrived. Officers in uniform began searching in different directions. Checking security camera footage. My hands were shaking, and I could barely speak. The cameras near the parade area showed Emily with a woman in her 60s wearing a gray cardigan. Witnesses reported hearing her say she was looking for a lost girl. The two headed toward the parking lot and got into a gray sedan. The car disappeared into the darkness. The license plate was unclear, unreadable. My world lost its color from that moment. The amusement park bathed in sunset. People's laughter echoing in the distance. But I couldn't hear anything anymore. Only my heartbeat pounded loudly in my ears. Sitting in the cold chair at the police station, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The same questions repeated over and over. What she was wearing that day, what she had with her, where and when she was last seen. Each time I shared the information, my throat tightened. She was last seen near the north exit of the parade area. Security footage shows her with a woman in a gray cardigan. The vehicle was a gray sedan. The detective's voice seemed distant. The sound of taking notes, keyboards clicking. Everything felt surreal. Day after day, we staked out locations and distributed flyers. Local residents, supermarket staff, station passers-by. Someone might know something. Someone might have seen something. Driven by that single hope, I kept moving without rest. Have you seen this child? If you have any information, no matter how small. My heart would leap at every uncertain sighting. Phone calls about seeing a similar child in another town. Reports of girls playing in parks. But they were all wrong. Hope would swell and shatter. The cycle wore my heart thin. My relationship with David gradually cooled. He buried himself in work, hiding in his office, escaping reality. Even at home, he became uncharacteristically quiet. "Why weren't you watching Emily more carefully?" His words pierced my heart. We both blamed each other. Even without saying it directly, accusations showed in our glances and attitudes. Me, breaking down crying in Emily's room at night. David, drinking alone in the living room. Slowly, the distance between us grew. Sleepless nights continued. When I closed my eyes, Emily's smile would appear. If I listened carefully, I felt I could hear her voice. Even in dreams, I was running through the amusement park, desperately searching. I couldn't stand in front of a classroom anymore. The students' faces overlapped with Emily's. During story time, someone would request Emily's favorite book. My voice would fail. Tears wouldn't stop. I started seeing a psychiatrist. Sleeping pills, anti-anxiety medication. Without medication, even daily life became impossible. "Mrs. Mitchell, have you considered taking some time off?" I could only nod at the principal's kind voice. A year later, we divorced. An unbridgeable gap, an unfillable void. We both saw too much of Emily in each other. I decided to switch to library work because I wanted to be closer to Emily's memories. A space surrounded by books. The place she loved. Walking between the quiet shelves, I sometimes think I hear small footsteps. I moved near my parents' home. Everything had changed. But I kept Emily's room ready. Her belongings remained as they were, a space where time stood still. Dusting, changing sheets. As if waiting for Emily to return. I continued Friday patrol activities. Around the amusement park, the station front, parks. Around the elementary school Emily attended. Walking through town as if following her footsteps. Seasons changed, the townscape gradually transformed. But time remained frozen within me. Information from the police gradually emerged. The perpetrator was likely a woman in her 50s or 60s, probably a medical professional. Her way with children seemed professional. Testimonies from other children who had been approached. The common thread, a kind smile when speaking to them. A planned crime. Someone who knew the area well. The park's security system, flow of people, camera positions. The perpetrator knew everything. The perfect plan sent chills down my spine. "Mrs. Mitchell, we have new information." The detective's calls always made my heart stop. Mixed feelings of hope and fear. But no decisive progress. The investigation approached a dead end. During those days, I repeatedly read Emily's diary. Classroom events, memories with friends, future dreams. I felt her presence in every word. On the last page, the amusement park plan was circled. Going to the amusement park with Mom and Dad. So excited. Every time I see those words, tears overflow. Time that can never return. Warmth I can never touch again. Still, I had decided to continue searching for Emily. A morning with early summer fragrances in the air. As usual, I was waiting for the train on the platform. The changing season made the air slightly humid. The platform held the usual commuters. People checking smartphones, reading newspapers, gazing absently at the tracks. A slice of daily life. But during this season, my heart always grows restless. Emily's birthday is approaching. She would be 18 now. Old enough to graduate high school. What does she look like? What does she talk about with friends? Has she found her dreams for the future? My chest tightens every time I imagine these things. The boundary between reality and fantasy becomes blurred. In the crowd, I sense something different. A feeling of being watched from behind. A gaze I would normally ignore felt oddly significant today. My neck tingled. Just as I was about to turn around. Suddenly, someone embraced me from behind. A small body. Trembling hands. Warm. And a familiar scent. My heart leaped. Time seemed to stop. Mom, I finally found you. That voice. Words caught in my throat. I couldn't breathe. My knees nearly gave way. A surreal moment, as if in a dream. Turning around, I saw a girl in tattered clothes. A thin body. Long hair. A small scar on her cheek. But those eyes. Those unmistakably gentle eyes. Even after 10 years, even as she'd grown from child to young woman, a mother never forgets her child's eyes. Tears overflowed. My vision blurred. As people around us turned to look, I held her tightly in return. A trembling body. Warm breath. The scent of her hair. Everything telling me this was real. But it felt so sudden, like a dream I couldn't wake from. Emily. My voice shook. Emotions too deep for words welled up. On the platform, we held each other wordlessly. People passed by, staring. But none of that mattered anymore. The world seemed to exist for just the two of us. I held Emily's hand. Warm, just like when she was little. But bony and thin. Her nails were unkempt, old scars on her palms. Her clothes were old and torn in places. Her shoes were worn out. But her eyes shone. Full of hope, just like that day. Station staff noticed and hurried over. Even as I explained the situation, Emily wouldn't let go of my hand. As if she might disappear if she did. I felt the same way. Trying to fill 10 years of emptiness with this warmth. While waiting in the station office for police to arrive, Emily slowly began to talk. Her voice was low, sometimes breaking. But there was clear determination in it. I've been looking for you all this time, Mom. They told me you had a new family, but I didn't believe it. Every day, I looked for a chance to escape, but I couldn't get out. But finally today. Each word stung like a needle. What had happened in those 10 years? What thoughts had she lived with? I wanted to know, but was afraid to hear. For now, I just wanted to feel this warmth. The police arrived. The detective who had been in charge for 10 years stared wide-eyed. "Mrs. Mitchell, is this?" The detective struggled for words. Beside him, a young officer verified Emily's characteristics. Radio calls directing security camera footage review. Everything taking on a sense of reality. This is wonderful." The detective's voice trembled. Tears glistened in the eyes of the man who had searched alongside me for 10 years. Emergency medical staff arrived to check Emily's condition. Blood pressure, temperature, pulse. After basic checks, the paramedic reported, "There are signs of malnutrition. Mild dehydration as well. But no major injuries or serious conditions." How relieved I felt at those words. She was alive. She was safe. How many worst-case scenarios had I imagined over these 10 years? But reality was different. My daughter was alive, here before me. Morning sunlight streamed onto the platform. The start of a new day. After 10 years of long night, it felt like morning had finally come. Emily's hair gleamed in the sunlight. "Are you feeling okay? Is there anything you want to eat?" Emily shook her head slightly at my worried questions. "I'm fine. I ate a little this morning." Those words raised new questions. This morning. Where? How? But such questions could wait. Right now, just having her here was what mattered most. As we moved to the police station in a patrol car, Emily clung to my arm, watching the scenery outside. "There are new stores here. The park has more playground equipment." Emily noticed each change. She hadn't lost her interest in the outside world during these 10 years. Even in captivity, she had maintained hope. Her strength made my heart swell. In the police car, Emily occasionally dozed off. She must have been tired. The weight of her head on my shoulder felt comforting. 10 years I couldn't protect her. But things would be different now. I would never let her go. When we arrived at the police station, reporters had already gathered. News of a victim from a 10-year-old kidnapping case being found had spread instantly. Flashes went off, cameras pointed our way. Emily pressed close behind me, hiding. That gesture squeezed my heart again. Was she afraid of crowds, or? Pushing away such thoughts, I squeezed Emily's hand tightly. "It's okay. I'll never let anyone take you away again." Inside the police station, the detective led us to a private room. A quiet space with air conditioning. Emily showed a slightly relaxed expression as she sat on the sofa. "I'll bring some tea." After the female officer left and the door closed, Emily let out a deep sigh. "Mom. I always believed. I saw it in the newspaper. That you were still looking for me. That you patrolled on Friday nights." Tears fell. My activities had given Emily hope. I'm glad I didn't give up. Glad I kept going. But I couldn't get out. The windows were locked. I could go into the garden, but there was a high wall. Finally today, Mary. Grandma said she was going to the hospital. Her words trailed off. It must still be hard to talk about. I gently stroked Emily's head. The same soft hair texture as that day. You don't have to force yourself. We can talk slowly. Emily nodded slightly. Then leaned against my arm again. I'm sleepy. Can I rest a little? Yes, of course. The fatigue must have hit her all at once. Emily's breathing gradually became regular. A place where she could sleep safely. Safe in her mother's arms. Finally finding her mother's warmth again. Light through the window quietly marked the passage of time. This would be a long journey ahead. But we're not alone anymore. We can walk it together. Looking at Emily's sleeping face, I made a vow. From now on, I would definitely protect her. We can't get back the lost 10 years. But I will make sure the time ahead is filled with happiness. The police interviews proceeded carefully. A psychological counselor attended, checking Emily's condition as they gradually gathered her story. I sat next to Emily, holding her hand, listening to every word. That day, I was watching the parade. There were so many people. Emily's voice trembled. A grandmother spoke to me, said she was looking for a lost girl. Each word pierced my heart. Memories of that day returning from a different perspective. She put me in the car, went far away. I was scared at first. But grandmother was kind. Emily's expression twisted complexly. Emotions unique to captives, born over 10 years. The word Stockholm Syndrome appeared in the counselor's report. A suburban house. An old Western-style house with a large garden. Emily's room was on the second floor. Heavy locks on the windows. But the room was clean, with many books on shelves. Study materials on the desk. Emily's drawings on the walls. On the surface, it was made to look like a normal home. Your mother has a new family. She's forgotten all about you. This is your new family now. She said she was told such things repeatedly. At first, she desperately denied it, but as time passed, Emily's voice trailed off. There were emotions there that couldn't be put into words. She said she had relative freedom within the house. Reading books, drawing pictures, practicing piano. A tutor came to teach basic subjects. But going outside was strictly limited. No phone or internet access. Contact with the outside world was restricted. But I could read newspapers. Sometimes. Emily's eyes regained some sparkle. There were articles about you looking for me. It said you patrolled on Friday nights. That's when I knew. Mom hadn't forgotten about me. Tears flowed. From both of us. Across 10 years, we had remained connected. Mary Wilson was arrested that evening. The search of the suburban house revealed shocking facts. A former nurse, she had lost her daughter and granddaughter in an accident 11 years ago. From deep grief, she had kidnapped Emily. The house contained countless photos documenting Emily's growth. Birthday cakes, smiles in front of Christmas trees, reading, playing piano from behind. Daily life staged as if they were a real family. The form of that twisted love sent chills down my spine. "Mrs. Mitchell, your daughter will need specialized care for a while." I nodded at the doctor's words. "There's a high possibility of post-traumatic stress disorder, and social reintegration will take time. We recommend counseling for you as well, Mrs. Mitchell." "Yes. Both Emily and I need time. Wounds to heal. But we're not alone anymore. We can overcome this together." As discharge was decided, a new life began. Emily's room, after 10 years, started regaining its warmth. New bed, new clothes. But the teddy bear from those days still sits on the bed. Some things change, some stay the same. "Mom, remember this book?" Emily picked up a picture book we used to read often. "The Goodnight Kiss." Stories begin to echo again in a space where time had stopped. Counseling twice a week. Sometimes tears, sometimes anger. Some days with intense emotional swings. Sometimes waking from nightmares at night. But this too is part of recovery. Supporting each other, moving forward one step at a time. "Hey, Mom." One evening during dinner, Emily spoke up. "I want to go to high school." Those words made my heart tremble. The strength to look forward. The courage to take new steps. "Yes, let's do that. Should we start with the high school equivalency exam?" Emily nodded slightly. Her eyes shining. The same curious eyes as before. I contacted David too. He was overjoyed about reuniting with Emily, and they arranged to meet regularly. Though we ended in divorce, the fact that he's Emily's father hasn't changed. Time spent dining together as three. Though some awkwardness remains, it's still precious time. A new morning begins. Toast sounds from the kitchen. Emily's footsteps coming down, saying, "Good morning." How precious these ordinary moments have become. "Mom, can I go to the library today? I want to study hard." Those words make my eyes well up. The wounds haven't completely healed yet. It will still take time. Some days will still be haunted by shadows of the past. But we won't look back anymore. Though we can't recover the lost 10 years, we have time ahead. A new story of mother and daughter is beginning. Morning sunlight illuminates Emily's face. Her childhood face overlaps with her current appearance. I quietly smile. "Good morning, Emily. Let's do our best today too." "Yes, Mom." The clock hands have started moving again. And this time, they mark time for both of us. Lost time will never return. But the memories we'll make from now on will surely shine bright. Believing this, we began walking toward a new morning.